clear on that motion, seconded by Council Land. Any discussion on the motion? Council Ward Russell, any comments?
No, I think it's a well-described motion.
Okay, Council Land?
Well, time frame of how long it's going to be out to the public. Like when you put it out, or when you put this out to the public, how long is it going to stay out? 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 1 week, 2, 3?
I actually haven't thought of that one, but a reasonable amount of time would be, I would say, at least 10 days to 2 weeks to allow any bidders to get the necessary information they need in order to put a bid in, would be my recommendation.
Okay. 10 days is probably too short to allow someone the time to put a reasonable proposal together. But it could be like if all the different parameters were already set, then that would be one thing, but there are a lot of conditions attached to this. So I would kind of bear on the side of more than 2 weeks to 3 weeks to allow somebody to put a fulsome proposal together.
I would go 10 days to 2 weeks myself, get this done. We've been talking this for a while. Let's put it out there. Let's move it on. We're going to sell it, right? If somebody's interested, they're going to have their stuff ready, or they're going to be on the ball to do it. So I think we should put 10 days to 14.
All right. Thank you, Council Land. Anyone else have any comments?
I just don't see,
Jonah?
yeah, I don't see anywhere here where it talks about fair market value.
It's not in.
One thing that's come to my attention based on our last council meeting is I think that we as council need to probably have a better approach or strategy to when there is a proposed amendment to a motion or to a resolution that's already been passed. Because at the last council meeting, we had a situation where in our council package, there actually was, in a way, a proposal to change a motion that was related to the disposition of the land. It was to actually, I think, change how the land was to be disposed of, whether it be through an RFP or through a real estate and so on. But in fact, that never really came to the table for debate because no one was prepared to make the motion in the first place. And I think that one of the reasons that happened is there was no background information provided to the council about why the motion was seen to be, or the resolution in that case, was seen to be desirable to amend. So I think in the future,
citizens reach out to me with concerns of the potential sale of land on Steve Street. They're a little concerned that with that area being a bit of a tourist area in the Hillsborough area, that it might not be such a great thing depending on what is going to be going there. And in that piece of parcel of land that we're looking at selling. What they would like to see is after a tender, that, you know, and we find out who's bought it, that there's some kind of something that goes out to the citizens to let them know what could be there, and then we have some kind of let the citizens have their say on this before they're very concerned about something very, very industrial being put right in the middle of a place that's really our tourist area. So I told them I'd bring that to council and go from there.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Coates. Motion that was adopted by council on May 14th in relation to the manner in which the local government would dispose of land declared surplus. It requires a motion prior to any discussion. If someone wishes to read that, please.
Whereas the original motion titled "Motion regarding this disposition of land" was passed on May 14th, 2024, and whereas it has been identified that certain aspects of the original motion require modification to better serve the interests of Fundy Albert. Now therefore be it resolved that the original motion be amended as follows. Clause number 2, the nature and term of the disposition shall be as follows. Disposition type request for proposal of the original motion shall be amended to read. Disposition type real estate agent, and that the CAO be approved to engage in a contract with Nick Dunfield of Keller Williams Capital Realty to negotiate the terms of sale on behalf of Fundy Albert, provided that the final terms of the sale shall not be binding until approved by council. Be it further resolved that this amendment shall take effect immediately upon passage of this motion. So
moved by Councillor Jonah. Is there a seconder on that motion? There's no seconder on the motion dies on the floor. Thank you very much. Item number 12, public comments and statements. This is an opportunity for members of the public to make comments or statements. Anyone wishes to say something? Yes, Mrs. Trumbull. Yes.
Thank you to Council, Public Works.
PID 00627349 and a portion of PID 00627463. Whereas the request for proposal invited proposals from interested companies for the development of the said land. And whereas Briggs Maple Limited, Rocky Mountain Maples Limited, submitted a proposal for the development of the land outlining their proposed use and bid price. Now therefore be it resolved by the Council of Fundy Albert that 1, the proposal submitted by Briggs Maple Limited / Rocky Mountain Maples Limited for the development of the land with a proposed use and a bid price of $24,345 is hereby accepted. Number 2, the Chief Administrative Officer is authorized to enter into negotiations with Briggs Maple Limited / Rocky Mountain Maples Limited for the finalization of the development agreement. And 3, the mayor and clerk are authorized to execute any necessary documents related to the award of the RFP to Briggs Maple Limited / Rocky Mountain Maples Limited.
So moved by Deputy Mayor Arrow. Is there a seconder on that motion?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councillor Elderkin. Any discussion on the motion?
Yes, I got a couple of questions.
Yes.
In Briggs Maple's description, is information that is on us. He has stated that page 15, I do believe, he really hasn't contacted the city to find out what he can do with that property. He said, once I find out what I'm doing with it, he said. So I don't, and then he's talking about in 2 years' time, developing it, and then 5 years' time down the road, doing a little bit more to it as you go, and that's fine. But in the writing up that he sent us, in my reading of it, he hasn't checked out what he can build on and what can be approved for. With the C. McLean application, they've already checked into it to see what they can build, and they're ready to build now. So if they was to build now, that was tax dollars in our pockets. There's a tax base started immediately, right? With the Briggs Maples, it could be 2 years, maybe it could be longer. And he doesn't know that he can build what he wants to build there. He hasn't got confirmation for that. So, I'm gonna go against the recommendation of our CAO for this. And
It's not a question of whether you vote, it's whether you vote in favor of the motion.
Okay. I will vote against this section. Right?
Any other discussion?
I just have one question. It was noted that we're authorizing the CAO to go into negotiations. At what time limit is there for negotiations that if it doesn't move forward, that it becomes null and void?
There, to my knowledge, and I'll let the CAO chime in, to my knowledge, there are no time limits or any conditions attached. It's whether or not council is prepared to dispose of the land per the conditions outlined in the motion. That's it. But we are not in a position, council's not in a position to be imposing any conditions once we sell the land. It might be a different story if we were providing the land without any financial consideration.
Thank you.
Okay,
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Lyon.
Mr. Mayor, right? If we sell it to him, if he doesn't buy it, if we agree to sell it to him and he doesn't buy it, what happens then?
It would have to come back.
There's no
to council.
time limit on this, right? You said there's no time limit.
So if we agree to it. And buy it, if we agree to sell it to him and he doesn't buy it, what happens then?
It would have to come back.
There's no
to council.
time limit on this, right? You said there's no time limit. So if we agree to it, and he says he will, but he doesn't, and he drags his feet out on this for 12 months, what happens then?
This is a motion of council. It's a motion of council. There's no time limits prescribed in the motion.
We will action the sale immediately following the decision.
Right.
So the land is for sale, it's being sold, it will be actioned immediately after council makes a decision. It's not in a situation like it was with another parcel of land where there was a condition that we were doing it for affordable housing, or there was a reason for it. This was a decision, council's either gonna surplus this land or they're not gonna surplus this land.
Correct.
So whether the person who purchases it does what they intended to, what they've stated they're gonna do or not is out of our hands. It's the land that we're selling.
Okay, I guess what I'm asking is, okay, whoever we sell it to, but they don't pay us the money and they go and find out this stuff and they say they can't use it or they don't want to use it, what happens then?
Well, no, so I'll be actioning it immediately after.
Okay.
It'll be, I'm not gonna make it a year.
So Councillor Jones.
Thank you.
So the decision was made that we can't ask for the buyer to proceed within a year. So we had a discussion around here many times.
If this motion is to proceed with the transfer on sale of the land, once the owner has the land in their possession, it's out of our hands. It belongs to them. But there are certain requirements that have to be met in accordance with the RFP. And those would be the conditions is there would be the subdivision costs, the legal costs, and those types of costs. The purchaser has to be aware that there's no services available. And so those are on the purchaser, not on the municipality. And I need to know, because you're kind of asking a question, but I need to know whether you'll be voting in favor or against this
I'll
motion.
be voting against it.
Okay. Anyone else?
Just maybe for clarity about that, I think I understand these questions about the so-called closing of the real estate transaction. Right. So presumably, if this motion was to pass, you, Ms. Saborn would proceed, as you said, with some haste to have the transaction completed. And if the buyer, for whatever reason, was somehow dragging their feet beyond a reasonable amount of time, the deal can fall apart. In which case, the deal just falls apart and somehow it comes back
The council
to us.
for a different motion.
Yeah.
Right.
That's, okay, very good.
And so would you be voting in favor or?
I think I will, yes, I'll vote in favor of this.
Okay. So I do have a question, and so my question is whether the proposed use by Briggs Maple Rocky Mountain Maples is consistent with the Village of Hillsborough Rural Plan bylaw number 51. Because as I understand it, under permitted uses 5.1.1, it prescribes what industrial purposes are appropriate. And it does not, in my view, but I would ask our CAO maybe to comment on that. In my view, it doesn't allow for retail or commercial space. It is for industrial purposes only. So unless my concerns are addressed, I would be voting against this motion. Any other questions or comments? Well,
I do have a
yes.
response to that
Sure.
one, because I did look that up. It is zoned as industrial, but there's another, the new Fundy Albert Rural Plan, which is not yet passed, but industrial use heavy is different from industrial use light, and industrial use light is a definition, and it's for manufacturing, production, processing, fabrication, assembly, treatment, repair, packaging, warehousing, wholesaling, and or distribution of finished products, predominantly from previously prepared or refined materials, or from raw materials that do not need refinement.
Okay.
It would fall.
Still doesn't address my concerns because there's talk about bus tours and talk about retail space. Retail spaces, in my view, doesn't fall under that definition. And until such time as the Fundy Albert Rural Plan is adopted, this rural plan, the Hillsborough Rural Plan remains in effect. So. Thank you.
Yes. Back to Mayor, that was my concern because supposedly it's a floodplain. So if they put all this stuff in there down the road, that could be an issue, right? And who's responsible for that and, you know, things get pointed.
I'm less concerned about that than concerned over, for me personally, about whether or not it falls within the definition of industrial use.
Okay.
There was mention, and I will point this out, there's mention in the council report form that this area has flooded in the past. It has not. The marshland surrounding the area has flooded in the past, but not that area, because as I understand it, to my knowledge, that area is higher than where the Public Works building is right now, and our Public Works building has never been subjected to a flood. In, as far as I know. So I think it's important to point that out as well. But that was information that I believe was erroneously provided by our rural planner. And it's not by our CAO, but rather our rural planner, and it was included in that document, no question. So, all right, any other questions or discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion as presented, which would dispose of the property to Briggs Maple Limited, Rocky Mountain Maples, would all in favor signify by stating aye.
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 So that's noted that it's Councillor Elderton and Deputy Mayor Arrow that vote in favor. Opposed, if any.
So,
We have Councillor Coates, we have Councillor Land, we have Councillor Jonah and Councillor Ward Russell and myself that will oppose. So the motion's defeated.
Are we able to amend a motion then? Is it council's wish to award it to the other bidder?
That would be someone else who would have to raise that motion.
I'll make that motion that we sell the piece of property on Steve Street.
Just read the motion again
Okay.
with substituted.
Fundy Albert issues a request for proposal RFP for the acquisition of a parcel of land located at Street Street in Hillsborough, PID 00627349, and a portion of PID 00627463. Whereas the request for proposal invites proposals from interested companies for the development of the said land. Whereas C. McLean submitted a proposal for the development of the land outlining their proposed use and bid price. Now therefore be it resolved by the council of the Fundy Albert that the proposal submitted by C. McLean for the development of the land with the purpose of use for a bid of $10,000 is hereby accepted. The chief administrative officer is authorized to enter into negotiations with C. McLean for the finalization of the development agreement. The mayor and clerk are authorized to execute any necessary documents related to the award and RFP to C. McLean.
So moved by Councillor Land. Is there a seconder on that motion? Seconded by Councillor Jonah. Any discussion on the motion? Councillor Land, you were.
I'm in support of this as I made the motion. I think it's wise. I had some issues with the industrial zoning. And I also had some issues with the trucks running on Fairview Avenue, as I spoke in the past, because it's a bus route. This company's young, it's gonna grow, it's getting bigger, and it's just gonna cause more traffic factors. So it's a safety factor, and this will give him room to grow and be out of the road, in my opinion.
Okay, so
I will support it.
you'll support it. Councillor Jonah?
It's the same way, I have concerns about the operation on back the road, that's like completely turned over apart. This fits, what the land is zoned for presently, and I would support this motion.
Thank you. Anyone else have any comments?
I must,
Deputy Mayor Arrow?
thank you. I didn't fully hear everything there. Did we include the price?
Yes.
I was just gonna clarify, can I, for the sake of the motion, can we say it's C. McLean Construction?
Yes,
And that the bid price was $10,000, because I think those two were left out when you were ready. Thank you.
I didn't say
He
10,000.
did mention.
Oh, I must
I didn't say construction, I just said.
Sorry.
He did mention. Okay.
In the interim, I I quickly just look back to the industrial use.
Correct.
That's described in the Hillsborough Rural Plan bylaw.
Mhm.
And, you know, it's an industrial use plus any use accessory to the authorized main use.
Right.
Right, so it seems to me that just back to the previous one, if you had an authorized main use to deal with packaging and processing of maple syrup,
Mhm.
then an accessory use, which would be the selling of that retail, to me, it actually is permitted, just as a matter of fact here.
Mhm.
So that the arguments that we had for the other one against it, in terms of whether it fit the permitted use, I don't think had merit. So on the face of it, we have two applications that on the face of it, as far as we can tell, both meet the zoning requirements. They have pros and cons to each of them.
Mhm.
One has a price of 10,000. The other one has a price more than double of that. I see certainly advantages to having use in this currently unused land. I think that the Briggs Maple operation is more conducive to that location, than the one that we're intending to dispose of, than the construction company personally. So I think that this is ill-advised to go with the lower amount and gaining no additional benefit, I would say, compared to our other bidder. I would vote against this, as it's in my view, clearly an inferior bid.
So as you pointed out, you will not be supporting this particular motion. Anyone else? No, the only thing that I would mention, Deputy Mayor, is I did see that in the proposed bylaw.
There's no proposals.
The current Village of Hillsborough bylaw, I did see that in the use, which is, it's a secondary use in addition to all the ones that were listed previous to that. But I asked the question of our CAO and I did not receive and it's not that the CAO didn't have a response, but I wasn't satisfied that that would be proposed. But the initial proposal, the other proposal mentioned the dog park, it mentioned walking trails, it mentioned there's just too much uncertainty, whereas this one is straightforward. And that's why I will be supporting this motion. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion to sell the property to C. McLean Construction, signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And so noted that Deputy Mayor Land and Councillor Elderkin, Deputy Mayor Arrow and Councillor Elderkin are opposed, and I vote in favor of it as well. Everyone else is in favor, so the motion is adopted. Thank you very much. We do have one matter